Okay, welcome everybody to this evening's XAUUSD Securities webinar. My name is Duncan Cooper. Tonight's webinar is Forex Trade and Live Market Analysis. Just to give you a heads up, this week I'll be taking you through the Fibonacci tool tomorrow evening and Thursday more live market analysis. My webinar is now starting at 7 p.m. Sydney time. We've had a clock change. All right, that's what's coming from me. Before we get into it, if you can read through the disclaimer. For those on our YouTube live stream, I cannot see the chat, but you can join us in the webinar by following the link that I've given you. For those in the webinar, the chat box is open or the Q&A box is open. You can talk to me either way. So if everyone can just read through the disclaimer before we move along. All right, we'll move along now. If you don't know me, my name is Duncan Cooper. I'm the Senior Market Strategist and Trading Mentor here at XAUUSD Securities. I've been trading the Forex market now for more than 15 years, nearly 20 years, and mentoring for more than 10. So it's been a long time since I started learning about the Forex market. If you want to contact me, my email is there, duncan.cooper@acy.com. And if you want to connect with us in the week, go to our website, go to acy.com, go to the Market News tab or our YouTube channel at ACY Securities Australia. If you want to connect with me personally, you'll find my links on my Linktree page. So I just jot down my handle. You can go over there and connect with me if you wish. If you want to get access to my chart layouts and templates that I'm using on MT4, just contact Nathan Bray's emails there on the screen. I will give you that in the chat. Nathan can answer any questions about the webinars or anything at ACY Securities. There you go. All right, so let's get into the market. It's going to be a difficult week this week. We do have. Let's get into news. Just want to make sure everybody can see me changing the page. I think everything's working fine. All right, so I'm at forexfactory.com here. My times, this is my time and New South Wales time now. So not much news at the moment, but we do have tomorrow the New Zealand on the midday, the interest rate decision. I'm not expecting any change there. There's a statement by the RBNZ. So that will affect obviously the New Zealand dollar crosses. Now, more importantly, the ones that are going to affect the market for the week, we've got the US CPI news coming out. So it's inflation news on Wednesday, 11:45 p.m. Then we've got Canadian interest rate decision statements, policy report. No expected change, but we'll have to wait and see. I might just go back to the CPI and look at the figures. They're expecting that maybe the year-on-year figure will pop up. So we'll have to wait and see whether, there's a major difference of what the expectation is coming in. US dollar's been getting a little bit weaker as we head towards there, but we'll have to wait and see what the reaction is going to be. So that's coming out Wednesday. All right, into Thursday of importance, 4 o'clock in the morning, FOMC meeting minutes being released. I don't think there's going to be anything too new there, but that can definitely affect the market for sure. Then into the evening, 10:15 p.m. for the Eurozone. We've got the main refinancing rate, monetary policy statement. So it's interest rate decision for the Eurozone. Not expecting any change. I've been seeing some headlines that maybe they're going to get ready to cut at some point soon. So in the statement, I'm sure the market's going to be looking at the verbiage to maybe see that. So we'll not see that. We'll have to wait and see what comes. And of course, we've got then the PPI data release from the US, which is more inflation figures coming out and unemployment claims at 10:30 p.m. And then 10:45 p.m. from the Eurozone, we have the press conference. So it's going to be very volatile here. It's going to be very difficult on a number. This US inflation figures being released Wednesday and then Thursday. be very difficult to, hold a position. And you're probably going to see at the moment the market's fairly range bound after moving yesterday. All right, and then into Friday we have US 30 bond auction, UK GDP month on month coming out at 4 p.m. So, and on Saturday midnight prelim consumer sentiment. But we've got to get past these inflation figures and the Eurozone at the moment. So, generally I just stand aside when all these major items are coming out and try and do something afterwards. So let's see what the market's doing today. All right, so first of all, I'll have the dollar index. Now, this is my day chart. If we go to the weekly chart, the trend is actually up on the weekly chart, although we've had a bit of a nasty reversal. We did move to a fresh high just, and then we had an outside down week. I'm sure, people are squaring off their positions versus the US dollar ahead of the inflation figures because nobody really knows what's going to come out and how the market's going to react after that. So I'm sure that's why there's a bit of a hesitation here. But we are still in an uptrend here at the moment. If we look at the monthly chart, we've had 3 positive months. We had a down month and finished positive by the end of last month. And we've had a month up this month. So we may well retrace back inside of the previous month, and we could draw the fib across that. It's worth understanding we could come down inside the month before, and by the end of the month, we could be finishing positive and up for the month. All right, there's 30 days in April. So it's going to drop to the day chart. So that's the range of last month up to the current high of this month. And we know we could easily come just maybe down to the 62% level. So see some more downtime here. So pairs to US dollar moving up within their range of last month. Well, we could see a bottom coming in here, tops coming in on the pairs to the US dollar, and still have, further US dollar strength. Most pairs to the US dollar traded down last month and finished with a very negative monthly candle. So we might see a little bit of uptime within the month, but if nothing really changes from the CPI data, if the CPI data is much more positive in terms of a higher number, we're going to see a stronger US dollar. So just worth seeing how far this can pull back. Does it start to put in the bottom? And then, how does that relate to the other pairs? All right, S&P 500. This is how I actually drew my fib last week. It's actually the range of last month. And I said to watch this area here maybe for some kind of pullback. That's pretty much where we pulled back to. And we've had a pop up. So we're having a little bit of a correction at the moment. Whether or not we're going to get a deeper correction, I was looking at this earlier in the day. From the October, if you do the maths, we're up about 25% from October. So we are, very much overextended. So we are due quite a, maybe a correction. We had an outside week to the downside last week. Doesn't change the weekly trend picture though, because higher top, higher bottom to a top here. But, maybe a bit high up for me personally to trade. I'd maybe want to see this maybe come down a bit more. The most immediate trend on the day chart is now down, but the longer term trend is up. So this is just corrective against that weekly trend. So, the ranges that are forming to the downside at the moment, if you move into the 4-hour chart, watching how very nasty candle down there, that would have been, I'm pretty sure, the job figures. Let me just double check. That was the 5th. So I don't think that was the job figures because that was the 4th. In any event, that must have been the job figures coming back up here. If we start to stall in this area, the 6279% area here, you can see your setup to shorts, then we maybe are moving down towards the 127 extension of that range, and I'm maybe having a bit more downtime. But let's not forget that the longer term trend is up. So it'd be nice if it just had, I'd be much happier just standing on the sidelines, letting it have a healthy pullback and wait for support to come in and the day trend turn back to up and look to take a position with the trend. from lower down. All right, the euro dollar, it's a little range bound at the moment. Notable listens to my 50-minute chart. Notably, we're getting support at the central pivot point, and we did yesterday. So it is holding its upside intraday bias at the moment. All right, day chart. Last month, we came up to the 62% area of this range. And this is a range, just want to double check. That's the March high. That's into April low. So we've actually had a month down, but we may, depending on the news items, their release, this whole range here, we've just been a bit short of 62 at the moment, getting stopped by this little area of resistance to the left at 108.65. So came up to 108.76, so we can't get up to 109. 62% low is at 108.82. So if we could pop up to 109 or the 62% level this week on volatility, we may see the market, put in an intra-month high in that area. Of course, we could put in the intra-month high here. It's going to be, difficult to tell. Today, though, you could most definitely be watching 108.65. We rejected it. We rejected resistance last week. We rejected support. So we're a bit mixed in this overall. We're stuck between support and resistance. I did notice that of this move down, there's a little 79% level that we're hanging around right now. So if if your bias is there's a high here, it's not textbook, but there's some form of maybe head and shoulder in some form. If you want to look for some form of a pattern, there is that. Most people would probably want to be seeing as this moved up here, there was some form of high here, but that is resistance to the left. So some form of resistance that we false broke here, maybe for a head. All right, so there is a potential for a failure up here. Last 1, 2, 3 candles, we can't quite get up to 108.65. So if we come back up here today and the 4-hour candle rejects once more, you need to make a decision. Do you want to maybe sell at 79% level, stop just above here, or stop above here for, a move back down this range, back down to support where we held last week? All right, so we failed at resistance last week. We failed at support last week. So are we going to just stay within those boundaries? So that's the area to watch today. I don't want to be buying into that area because that area held last week. So we'll have to wait and see. I won't be talking to you tomorrow. I've got a webinar tomorrow, but it won't be analyzing the market. So when the CPI data comes out tomorrow, I would most definitely watch the 62% level up here, up to the figure, to see what would be happening there. And that does line up with a bit of an imbalance over here to the left. This imbalance may get filled. Price may be coming up just to fill this area within last month's range. All right, but primarily at the moment, watch 108.65 today. What's going to be happening there? And 50-minute chart at the moment just coming up towards that area. So if you think we're going to be going up 100 pips today, we are breaking above the swing point high here, getting support at the central pivot point. So you could be buying the break of the swing point high, stop below the low here, if you want to get onto the long side. But if we do then tag the resistance up here at the top, get the risk out, because we could fail there to move back down. So we're either going to break above 108.65 today or we're going to hold. So that's really the level to watch. Euro yen is at a high at the moment. Trend was down, it's turned back to up on the day chart. We are very high historically, Euro monthly chart. So when we're at very high historical levels, we will often struggle. But we are, monthly trend and weekly trends are up, but we're at historical high levels. All right. High bottoms, higher tops here. We have a higher top and a higher bottom coming in here at the moment on the daily. But the market is holding here at the moment. So there's always the question that the trend can change where we're at. You know, there's a move there. I know there's a swing in between, and then there's this move up here at the moment. We could go that way, or we could continue up. From a buyer's perspective, it's very difficult just to buy right here because you're at the top of the move. So if you want to see some intraday pullback, let's go to the 4-hour chart. 4-hour charts is very much struggling here, which is last week's high. So maybe until we get a data release and maybe the Eurozone interest rate decision on Thursday, the market may not want to really commit too much high because that data release may not reflect, you know, this price that we're at. So it's most worth watching here for your setup to sell. It's a clear resistance area. And as I was just saying, you know, if this range here was the first sell-off, this whole move, and if this is a rally up here at the moment, then there's a 79% level at 164.76. So you can most definitely watch to see if price action wants to start to move below that level. Because if it does, that's an area maybe you want to start to, you know, if price does start to hold at this high, if we start to move below 164.76 this week, then, and that becomes a high point there, you could watch for any rally back to that point, sell, stop above here. Now, we don't have that information at the moment. To be a buyer, I would need to see this come back down the range somewhat. And I'd need to, you know, I need more information to be a buyer because I need price action to form something. I'm not going to buy at last week's high. So I would need to see this come down, hold. Then I need to see some intraday price action to tell me we know we've had a nice little correction and we want to go back up. So at the moment, I'm not seeing a setup yet to sell, other than, well, yes, I could be selling at this resistance stop above this area if I thought this week's news items were going to make this move down. But to be perfectly honest, the news items could drive it any up or down. So unless I see a price pattern that is going to tell me that we're starting to move down, I'm just going to be on the sidelines until I see something. But you know, we're trading at 164.90, so we're just holding. We go to the 50-minute chart. We're just holding. Up here, 165. You can see it's very sideways at last week's high. You know, if you wanted to get to the short side, if we stabbed up to 165 today and reject, you could try and shorting as close to 165 as possible. Right now, whilst it's range bound, there's a little downtrend here on the 15-minute. And we're just starting to sell from that little 79% level. So there is an opportunity there to get short right now. Limited risk. Stops just above here. You know, you're risking 15 pips at the most. If we are finding resistance here, of course, we could be starting to sell down for the rest of the week. So you just need to decide, do you want to get short up there or not? What's your setup? Okay, getting into pound dollar. Now, I just want to emphasize there's a monthly high here at 128.27 that we rejected at last month. There's last month's candle. It's a inverted hammer, almost doji. Almost a gravestone doji. Okay, so it's quite a negative candle. You know, if you had to guess just from the monthly candle, you'd say we're maybe going to go down this month. At the moment, as we drop into a weekly chart, we're holding on weekly support at the moment. And on the day chart, we're stuck between Friday's candle came down as support, held. Thursday's candle came up to this candle resistance area over here and held. So we will trap like the euro dollar. between support and resistance. From the big tops and bottoms, this is still in a downtrend. Lower top, lower bottom, lower top. But this could turn to up through the week if price action moves up, and then you want to monitor the range here that formed last month. And the volatility of the news items this week could most definitely come up to areas where, this area here, 127.72, close to the 62. Lots of highs here to the left, so we'll just paint the first one in. 127.72. All right, so just love to watch through the week, primarily tomorrow. As well, tomorrow, there's a couple of highs over here to the left as well. So any movement up here at the moment is just corrected from last month. And I'm very aware of this imbalance over here. So price can most definitely come up, and there's an imbalance. It's most definitely an imbalance in this area at the moment. That could get filled. We're getting held, obviously, up on Thursday, rejected in this area of resistance. Now, we don't have to fill the imbalance, but if it gets very volatile to the upside, it will probably come up and fill this area. And that would get us into that 62% area at 127.57 to 127.72 daily resistance. Now, as well, most recent price action, we've sold off last week. We're coming up at the moment. There is a 79% area at the moment. We don't have to break above this resistance area that we tagged last week. We could just be pinging off support and, held at resistance, bounced off support. We could hold at 79 to move back down to support. Overall trend bias from last month is down. So we'll just, we have actually traded below last month's low. We're not able to commit below there. It did actually form some form of head and shoulder pattern with last month's low. So last month's low was here. So it did form a little head and shoulder there. So we could actually be moving up. So that fib that I drew in that way could actually be going this way. Now we can't go back in time to this 79% level. The only 79% level that's available to you if you want to trade in a downward direction is here. But if you want to trade in an upward direction, you've already missed it. And if you're trading this head and shoulder pattern, you're coming up to test resistance. If you can move through, your target would be up here at the 127 extension. So the first game plan would be, can this area break? If it can't, take your profit. So let's get rid of these lines. So which way is it going? Are we going further up the range, or are we further up the bigger range, or are we just stuck between resistance and support? All right. As I said to you on the day chart, if you're struggling with the bias, day trend bias is down at the moment until we trade above that high, we're down with these major swings. So I would be more inclined, until proven different, is to look in the 79% area, up in this area, up to the resistance area, to see if we start to hold. We have some highs, we have lows, two lows here, another low over there. We have these immediate highs here. So we're in an area of resistance at the moment. So for me, it's not an area to buy in, but am I getting a trigger to sell? Not at the moment. Now you could be, watching this area. Around the 79% level, do you see a trend line break? That may be enough for you to go, okay, yeah, I'm going to go short. So we had one go. Early in the day, you could have gotten the risk out for sure. There was a trend line break here, but it didn't continue down. So you could still be watching later in the day. Now, if you just think it's going to scream north, we are breaking above this swing point at the moment, or at least trading above it. That could be your entry trigger stop below here. That would need you to have about a 20 pip stop. And back to my 4-hour chart a moment. Now, a 20 pip stop, and we have up to resistance. It's only, 20 pips. It's not a great risk reward. But if you thought we're going to get a massive breakout and above, and you think we're going to maybe come up to fill this imbalance here, well, a 20 pip risk, if we are going to break out and fill the imbalance, it's not a bad risk to reward if we can break above resistance. So you just have, you have to make a decision. What side of the market are you on? I'm not convinced we're going to move above here. I think the only way we will maybe move above here is when the CPI data comes out, and nobody knows whether that's going to happen or not. So it's good to be planning what areas you'd like to see price get to and fail at post news this week, and play the patience game. All right, pound yen. This is looking like it's maybe coming up to this high, but it is asking some questions here. As we move into the 4-hour chart, I did have this range like so last week. The 62 area here has been a little bit hard to get through. We're trading above at the moment. So maybe we are moving up. In the short term, I can see a 4-hour range of an uptrend here. So we're maybe trading up in this direction at the moment, up towards the 127 extension, assuming we can perfectly break above here. But again, if you want to get to the long side, this isn't where you want to go long. You should have been looking to get long in this area last week. All right, this is kind of getting into the profit area now of this high, 127 extension up here now. Let's drop to the 15. All right, starting to move back below that 4-hour top. It's not a great area to get long. As I'm talking, what's that pound doing? Must be the yen. Dollar yen must be selling off. Yeah, dollar yen selling off. All right, so we're seeing a bit of yen strength at the moment. All right, so the question would be, do you like that area to hold today? So whilst we can see the 4-hour swings being up there, of this movement down, this could be a rally back up long term. There's a 62% area there. There's a high here. There's a high here. Are we forming another high here? It's like a triple top along that 62% level to hold. So you can watch price action here. If this is holding here to move down, I'd like to see price action have a nice break of this area of clear intraday support at the moment. And then can it come up back up to retest? And this is the area to sell. All right, because at the moment, this could just be coming down to fill some buys, and it could be closing back above 192.24 on this candle, and then it continues up. So if you get a very strong close on that 50-minute candle with a rejection, then maybe that's the buy signal to go along, depending on your mode of operation. If we close up here, so we totally reject this area, then buy, stop goes below here, and you're looking to trade up. It's very choppy. There's no real commitment at the moment, one way or the other there, other than just maybe on a 15-minute bias at the moment. You can see the little lows. That is a higher bottom. That is a higher top. It's just pulling back within this micro range. It's just pulling back within this range here at the moment. So you'll see that it's just pulled back. Down into the 79% level or fraction below. And then the buyers have come in. All right, so personally at the moment, I'm not seeing a trigger to go short. Don't know if I like really the area on the 4-hour chart to go long, because even if the trend is up, I should have been getting long down here. This is in the latter end of the move. If we're big swings are like so, we're in the latter end of this move at the moment. There's only maybe this portion left. Where if you were getting long in here, you had that whole portion to potentially take as your reward to risk. All right, so it doesn't really, it's not a great risk reward at the moment if we are continuing up. All right, but you can decide what you want to do. All right, Aussie yen. All right, trying to break above this high today. It's been below it, it's been above it, and at the moment it is above last week's high. On a monthly chart, we are getting, the next reference level really is up here at 102.82, but we are at very high levels. We don't have to get to this high to top out. Historically, if I squash this in, you can see that historically, once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times in this price area, we failed. All right, to move down. So in the grand scheme of a long-term move, we're at the latter end of the move. Sure, with there maybe another 200 pips to go, if it wants to do that. At the moment, we've got about 240 pips to this high. If we can continue up. Our monthly trend is up, but you can see last month it had last 2 months, in fact, the last 3 months, they've all been large shadows on the candles. So whilst they've been going up to new highs in the month, they're not holding. All right, so weekly trend is up too. Day trend is up. I did think we were maybe failing here last week, but you can quite clearly see that we're at the moment, this high, which is at 139, we're trading above there by 7 pips at the moment. But the question I keep saying, when we're at such high levels, we're at the top of the move at the moment. Do you want to buy at the top of the move? I think from a buyer's perspective at the moment, this high here that we false broke last week would be a good, a good area to pull back to. But you can see over the last 4-hour candles, last 2 ones, we couldn't quite get down to 116 there. So, but that would be the level I would watch for an intraday, 4-hour pullback to this area for support. If you're wanting to get long at the moment, I'm not going to buy at the top of the day, top of the move. All right, 15-minute. Or just the micro swings here. Or at the top of the move or the micro swing. Up 79%. Up at the 127 extension. So if you're trading that on the 15-minute chart at the moment, that's where you want to take profit. All right. So, and it wouldn't be a bad idea because this is last week's high. 139, I said it was. Is if you're wanting to, if you are long and you're thinking maybe we're going to now false break last week's high, this is a good place to, take your profit if you got in down here and start to think about, are we going to move back below last week's high now, back down this range, maybe back down to 116. Of course, we could break a lot higher today, but just on that, these swings on the 50-minute chart, this is now overextended. We're going to continue up. Then I would want to see, if you're trading the 50-minute chart, look at the next range. This is the current range we're forming. Wait for the next pullback to the 62.79% area to be a buyer if you want to be buying at these high levels. All right, so the intraday 50-minute chart trend is definitely up. We're at very high levels though. It's very much, last week we very much rejected this top. Of course, at the moment, we're above that top and we're above last week's high point as well. But I don't know where today's going to finish. If we were to close below 116 today, that's going to be very negative. And then you want to be starting to look for a reversal from that level through the course of the week, back down. So it's looking bullish now. Don't know whether it'll be looking bullish by the end of the day. All right, Aussie dollar. So the Aussie end's moving up on the back of the Aussie dollar, moving back up to its, where's the range? I've got the range drawn in. Range is between 64.77 and 66.21. It's where we failed a couple of weeks ago. Up here, I got shot up here a couple of weeks ago. So we're coming back to the same spot. Of the move down last month, 79% levels at 66.26. There's all, we've got the 4-hour chart now. There's all these 4-hour areas of resistance here. Highs. Last week's high. We often fail at last week's high, and we're right at it right now. So this is the area to watch. That's the sell area. That's not where you want to buy. I know price is moving up. And of course, price can just continually move all the way up if it wants to. But if you're not already long, this isn't where you get long. This is where you're starting to wonder, on my long position at the moment, should I be taking profit? Now, if this turns over, you're going to see the Aussie yen turn over. All right, 15-minute. So this is a great area to watch for reversal today. Not reversing just yet, but if you start to see a trend line break up there, this is where we sold down from. Back to daily. This is where we sold down from last month. Yeah, that was the high on the 8th of March, and then we went down to the start of April. None of these candles from the 8th of March could close above this area here at 66.21. If we close above there, we could be going higher. But if today we trade above and we close back below, you could just be sitting here now waiting. I want to see where it closes tomorrow, in the morning when we get the close. If we close below or close at the level, is it time to look for a short to move back down the range? Now, there's definitely a range here. My range trade technique that I teach as well, the range is I'm using this as my range. You could be selling at the top of the range. We're there right now. Stop goes at the 127R. So that's the top of the range. You're selling. Stop goes to the 127R. If we're not going to break into a trend, we won't get to the 127R. We might come up and test this area, but that wouldn't stop you out. And then you're targeting down here. Same thing when you were down here. If you thought this was a range, you could have been a buyer here. Stop at the 127. And this is where you take your profit right now. All right, so the big question is, are we at the top of the range to move back down? All right, I'm going to skip the euro pound because it's not doing much at the moment. And let's get into the New Zealand dollar. Ahead of the interest rate decision tomorrow, this weekly low here that we obviously committed down and through for the last 2 or 3 weeks. So this low here for the last 3 weeks, we are trading above. So potentially this range may be coming into the picture at the moment in terms of this isn't a downtrend, but this is corrective up. Assuming that we're going to move above 60.38, that's the key level to watch at the moment. So over the next couple of days, over the next, say, what is it? As we get to tomorrow's midday, so what is it, 17 hours, 16 hours. You know, tomorrow's close, do we close above this level, 60.38, or do we close below? Closing above would be suggestive that we're maybe coming into a corrective move up, or maybe coming into this zone up here. And I wouldn't be contemplating trading the New Zealand crosses at the moment until we get past the interest rate decision. Now that's not really into the midpoint of that area, is only 100 pips. So we can definitely be there when the interest rate decision gets released. Once it's released and whatever it is, with it, you know, over the next hour after the release, we could definitely be in this zone tomorrow. And do we start to top out for, you know, long term? The movement's been, we have this double top that was trading down here. Are we now coming into this zone? Well, we could hold here, but are we coming up here? Like so. Intraday at the moment. Let's move the 4 hour. It's maybe just starting to get, you know, it's closed 3 times above 60.38 and maybe starting to become support intraday. Most definitely, if you want to get long, you want to be looking for a pullback to 60.38. You can look for a little fib pullback to get long if you're wanting to get long. If you're wanting to get short, then you want to see 60.38 broken once more, because it held yesterday. But at the moment, it's looking like it's breaking above there. So the bias there at the moment is to the upside as we lead into the interest rate decision. I think as we lead into the interest rate decision, anybody that's shorts getting out their shorts. So that's causing that upward pressure at the moment. New Zealand yen, it's in this little area of resistance here. So last month was a negative month. We actually have just traded down this month as well. So we're coming back up inside the whole candle of last month. That's a lower top on the weekly, and we're coming back up. So that is the range of last month. We're coming up to resistance. This area here. There's a little area there too, and there's a 79% area in there. But this is most definitely where this could want to hold here. So, you know, last month we traded down. We finished down there. About here it was, and then we just traded down to a new low this month. This could be where we put in the low, where we put in the high of this month. So, most definitely, yes, you could. I wouldn't want to sell this ahead of tomorrow, but I mean, we all have to make our own choices. You could be selling here, stop above the high, because we're just fractionally above the 79. So, and we're at resistance. Sell, stop goes above here. Targeting down here. 4-hour chart. Not showing any negativity yet on the 4-hour chart. 15-minute. You know, if you see a trend line break up here, you've still got 15 hours before tomorrow's interest rate decision. That could move down all day from there. Could be down at today's projected low by the end of the day. At least you could be risk-free when the interest rate decision comes out. So you could be watching for a failure up there. You could be deciding right now if you want to get in with a stop above the area. Okay. Again, you know, I just want to emphasize to everybody, I know price is moving up. I don't know if it's going to reverse. It's just an area where I don't want to buy into because it's resistance. So I'm not going to buy in resistance. If this is a rally back up to the 79% area, I'm never buying at the 79% area. I'm either looking for a reversal or I'm doing nothing. Okay. All right, dollar Canadian. We did Friday spike above the area of the range that I've been drawing in. I've just adjusted it from this high here to this high now, this higher area. There's 3 highs in this area. And really, it's not the greatest pair in the world at the moment. It has, a higher bottom here to that bottom. So last week, as we were coming down here, I said, watch the bottom of the range. Now it hasn't done that. It actually put in a higher bottom. So really kind of a 7% pullback. Couldn't quite get up to 127 extension, but there is a bit of a trend maybe forming in here. Are we gonna maybe do something like that? Oh, I just want to refresh my memory. Tomorrow, from the Canadian point of view, we've got the interest rate statement. If they were to cut, I don't know if they can cut, but if they were to cut, that would obviously mean the dollar Canadian would go up. We do have a slight upward bias in that range at the moment. So I don't know if they are going to cut. There's no expectation there from the forecast that we're going to cut. It may be a question of at 12:30 there when we have the press conference, what do they say? Are we going to break out? And we might break out just because of the US CPI data release in any event, but it's going to be highly volatile tomorrow when we've got the US core CPI and CPI year on year CPI coming out, and then a little bit later the interest rate decision for the Canadian. So it's a difficult one. I think at the moment, from an intraday trade perspective, we probably won't, until that data comes out, we won't be able to clear the top of the range. So if we did come back up to the top of the range, that would be the area to watch to trade. Or, so top of the range to trade down from, or there's this impulsive move up. That was the new higher bottom I just showed you on the day chart. So that's last week's low, last week's high. Is most definitely this area in the volatility of the news tomorrow. Do we come down to move back up this way with the trend? All right, that's what I look for. Underlying trend is up. Very range bound though. I could most definitely come up this way with the volatility of the news tomorrow. See how we spiked up there on, I think this is Friday's job figure spike. Up, heavily rejecting. We could once more come up into this area and heavily reject. You can see there that we did come down. We came down, so we went up, came down to the low there. That became resistance. So 136.13 is resistance at the moment. That's where the sellers are protecting. We could definitely come down, come back up to this area again and come down. So that's the sell area. If you want to look for sells, and the buy area is down here. At the moment, you're in the middle of those two areas, so it's not ideal. All right, dollar franc, weekly charts. So whilst this is a weekly chart, this area that got drawn in over here is a monthly low. So the monthly chart is this area here, which we've been holding at all month. And the actual structure on the monthly chart is down. If you look closely here at the lower top, I'll draw it in for you. We could put a top in here to go down that way. If nothing changes in the trend, then that would have to occur. All right, so we're at resistance. As well, that monthly range, we're at the 79% area. Last 2 weeks, I've been rejecting that little area there. And we've been in that area this week, and we're not in it at the moment. We've sold back down from it. Very sideways here at the moment. Very, if we're going to the downside, it'd be nice to see the daily chart clear this area. So if we can see break, then a rally, and then price doing its thing down this way. At the moment, I know inflation in the US has been ticking down, but doesn't mean to say that we could have bottomed out and we could be on the way back up with inflation growing again, which is clearly US dollar positive. So this is just in the holding pattern here at the moment. It is holding at the 79% level and the monthly resistance. So if you've got a sell bias, then as I just said, you can wait for a break and then a rally, or draw a fib across the range and see if we can get up to the 79% level and the monthly resistance level up here. So 90.72 to 90.84 would be where you would expect sellers to be. If you got much more of a bullish bias, got last week's low down here that we've actually false broke yesterday. So once more, this area here. Last week's low into the current low this week would be a good area to watch. In fact, with all those lows to the left here, that zone there. So it's about the 9,000 level. Okay. Buy area, sell area. Very choppy. Dollar yen. All right. For the last, 3 or 4 weeks, I've been saying at the top here is a sell zone. I've been saying up here is a sell zone. That is against the 2022 high. So the monthly chart, 2022 high is here. 2023 high is about, 5 pips below it. Back to my 4-hour chart. Well, day chart. There's the top of the range at the moment. There's the bottom of the range. We came back down to the bottom of the range last week, went all the way back up to the top of the range. Maybe this week we'll just go all the way back down to the bottom of the range. So we're in the sell zone, sideways. We're holding at the 23 high and the 22 high. Pretty much 150-200. Market can't commit above 150-200. The data this week may mean we spike above 150-200, depending on what the data is. But maybe the bodge is just waiting for it to go above 152 to intervene, because it just will not go above 152. I'm not sure if we traded at 152. No, we haven't traded at 152 yet. So we're in the sell zone at the moment, and this is the buy zone down here. We do have a good day before the CPI data release, so theoretically you could be selling here, looking to trade down to there, and we could be, even if you have to get out of your trade because it hasn't moved all the way back down to the bottom of the range, that could be still good profit to move down. So we're a little bit, there's ranges within ranges here. There's go to the 1-hour chart here. There's a range here within the larger range. You can see it's very range bound. Be nice on this 1-hour chart if we could break this area, which is a 79% level. So if we could come down, this area then becomes resistance, like so. At the moment, all that's happening is we're just falling a micro range here. And it's not really going anywhere. Just waiting for the data to come out. But as we're at the top of the range and we still have a good day to go, if we got back up to the top of the range over the next, I don't know, 6 hours, we, high probability is we won't move through the top of the range till the data comes out. So then if we do once more fail to move at least some way down the range, you can take profit obviously ahead of the data release tomorrow. All right, so it's going to be interesting which way this dollar yen goes long term, whether or not the bodge comes in and intervenes. I felt like we got some intervention down, it was over here, but then it came back up. Some news, I think it was down through there. So will we get some intervention? We may well do if we move above 152. All right, let's just finish on gold. Gold's very difficult at the moment. Like, this is my monthly chart. We're at the highest point ever at the moment. Do you want to buy the higher the move? Weekly, higher the move, and the daily higher move. What I want to show you on the monthly chart was we had a move up and a pullback here. It wasn't a very deep pullback, so there was a range here. So we're beyond the 127 extension. 162 is at 24.24. All right. Now with this massive uptrend, it may not respect any of these fib levels. But what the point I wanted to make was we're overextended just using the tool. So in my mind, it's very difficult just to go, I'm going to go long now gold because it's moving up. So, all right, we had a very minor pullback to this low here. So in my mind, if you want to trade this to the upside, just want to see where that is on the 4-hour chart. All right, it's that low there. All right, so we've got a number of other lows, higher lows here. This just keeps going up. So that's the most immediate support low. Draw your fib in on the 4-hour. Watch for 62.79% pullback. At the moment, that kind of comes in now with last week's high. Last week's high is broken, so last week's high now can become support. Again, the caveat is always at the moment with gold, do you want to keep buying at such high levels? At what point will it be overpriced? And then, once it gets overpriced, we might get a significant correction. So I would watch for a pullback to 62.79 if you want to trade. Back to last week's high. Last week's high was at 23.30. That's almost at the 79% retracement area there. So that zone there. All right, difficult at the moment, gold. I don't know if anybody's prepared to be a buyer on that at such high levels. Somebody must be. Or, prices are being quoted anyway at such high levels. Ty, you want me to look at the euro pound? I skipped that one because it's not doing much, but the euro pound, it is at resistance here. The weekly trend here, it's kind of put in a bit of a higher bottom just there last week. But it's smack bang at this weekly high over here to the left. And you can see it's terrible price action on the weekly chart, really. Lots and lots of weeks of range-bound sideways price action. I say at the moment, it looks like it can't hold above 85.75. So we're only 7 pips away from there. All right. On this 50-minute chart at the moment, there's the move. 85.75's here. That's really the sell zone at the moment. If we can get back on a rally, seemingly, it was yesterday very choppy, holding above this area as support. Looking now like we've broken that area to the downside. So we're going to come back up to this area now to be resistance to move down. To move down, day chart here, so very choppy, but we can see move to a lower bottom. This is maybe a lower top forming now. That will be a 79% level up there. So we're failing at 79%, starting to want to get back below these highs. We could well be moving back down the range, back into support. Okay, that's maybe the way it's looking like it's turning at the moment. Right back up from on the weekly chart, it actually looks on the weekly chart like maybe this is actually a movement above. Let's just go back to the weekly chart because time frames are very difficult at the moment on this pair. Whilst the day is turning down, the weekly here lower top to lower bottom. That looks like a fractionally higher bottom or equal bottoms to a higher top. So on a weekly chart, it looks like it's come down to here to maybe want to go this way. But on the day chart, it's looking like it's maybe failing at this side over here. To form maybe some form of, it's not a great looking one, but that's a lower bottom. So, is this left shoulder, head, right shoulder here kind of area? All right. Yeah, because this has gone up, down, up to lower bottom. Is it doing that? It's not happy at 85.75 today as resistance. All right. Looks like it's maybe, if I had to put a trade on today for my life, I would maybe have to say it's moving down from 85.75. But if I had to find, if I had to pair the trade, then I'd go and look at a different pair because it doesn't look like the most user-friendly pair at the moment. If I had to trade a pair today, I would probably be watching Aussie dollar. What is it going to do up here at 66.21? It's at 66.22 at the moment. What's going to happen up there over the next hour? That's what I would be looking at. Guessing the Aussie again still moving up. Here we go. Still moving up. All right. Right, so tomorrow, if you want to join me for a webinar, I'm going to be taking you through Fibonacci. I've used it this evening, but tomorrow's lesson will be on Fibonacci. So if you want to join me, just come over to the webinar page and register interest. Other than that, just be very cautious this week. Lots of news coming out that can totally damage your account. And often it's better maybe just to be out when these heavy news items are coming out, and then after that, looking for your trade. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Have a good week.